Hey everybody, this is Evan,
And this is Myles.
and welcome back. This is episode 4 of the Colored Colloquium. And if you have made it this far, I said it last time, I say it again. We both appreciate you. So, this episode we are going to be talking about the NRA. The main topic is going to be on the NRA as a whole. So, I would just actually jump a little bit into the history of the NRA. If any of you guys don't know, the NRA stands for the National Rifle Association. At this point, it's been in effect for about 148 years, and it was founded in New York in 1871. Now, it before I continue, I'll just kind of state that I personally do not like the NRA. I am against the National Rifle Association. That's just my personal bias, I guess. Myles, if you wanted to state any biases you have before we jump into this.
Why did you ask me this already? Okay, so
it would make sense. No. I'm just going to kind of jump into a lot of this.
So yeah, no, I'm definitely not for the NRA. I kind of look at it from a perspective of, and I don't want to jump too deep or too far, but it's just, I don't like currently what you by quota saying that you're here for. I get it, but I think it's almost painful in a sense because it's like with the state of what's going on, shouldn't you be doing a little bit more in that regard? And if you're not, then why aren't you? But we're not going to get into all that.
Yeah, so you're definitely, I'm assuming, speaking of like gun control and a lot of the mass shootings being out of control. But yeah, we're definitely going to get there at a certain point. But before I went into the history, I'm definitely going to be giving you facts, but I wanted you guys to understand the angle that I'm going to be coming from. So, the NRA is a nonprofit organization, and it's also a tax exempt organization in the state of New York. So, the KKK, the history of and I want to say they have 3 iterations right now, but the first iteration became it became known as a official illegal terrorist organization. So it kind of got disbanded in a sense, and that same exact year the National Rifle Association came into existence. So that is something that again is a fact, and one of the reasons why I kind of look at it in a certain light. So at this point again they've been in service. I don't even want to say service. They've been in operation for 148 years, and they are billing themselves as the longest running civil rights organization, which is very frustrating to me to hear. Just understanding what the word civil rights typically means in American society, and really what happened to a lot of our African American civil rights leaders. Again, and it's like, what's civil about a gun? I mean, everything just sounds like a contradiction. It's all frustrating. Myles, I don't know if you had any points that you might want to jump in before I went on.
See, now you make me want to go there about like, if you look at what they say that they stand for, it's like, why the fuck do we need you? Why do we need you? But the insanity is that you have all these fucking members and shit, and it's like, but why do we need you though?
They I'll just move forward. So basically, I want to kind of just state a few points that will kind of let you know, even regardless of why they say they're here, what they say they're a part of. I just wanted to show you what they've kind of been doing since they've been around. So I mean, in the 1800s. So again, they say they are the longest running civil rights organization. In the 1800s, the NRA backed legislation with politicians that prohibited black people from gun ownership. I mean, does that sound like something that a civil rights organization would do? I would say no, myself personally.
And I'm getting.
I mean, so that definitely happened. In the 1920s, they promoted bills to stop immigrants from owning guns as well. pretty much the Italian Americans were kind of targeted in that regard specifically around that time. I mean, who were we? How is this? How is this a civil rights organization? Again, what is civil about guns? It's only a certain type of person, seemingly only one type of person that can own a gun, and I mean that just leaves everybody else to be shot, right? I mean,
Pretty
you
much.
gonna be on the other end of that. I don't know a lot about guns. I was about to say nozzle. What is the barrel? At the end of the barrel.
That's right. I think that's right. What
Alright,
was the
so
first one?
I'm not an NRA member, huh?
What was the first
The
one?
nozzle. It's very
Okay.
similar. You can see how I got. You can see how I got there.
Yeah, I got that.
All right, so the NRA actually officially, I want to actually go to one other point first. So people understand who Ronald Reagan is at this point. There was some recent news that came out about him calling some African um, the leaders of African countries like monkeys, saying some of them were still uncomfortable wearing shoes, just saying a lot of racist shit as a racist president would do. But I bring up Ronald Reagan because in 1967 there was something in California called the Mulford Act the Mulford Act of 1967. I'll say the year again, but basically what that was, it prohibited California, or it basically repealed their open carry law. So you couldn't walk around California with a gun in after 1967 in California. So why do I bring that up? Because that would sound like something that, oh, well, that sounds like a gun legislation, making sure that certain people couldn't just walk around shooting people. Basically, why that was done is because the Black Panthers had I forget the year the Black Panthers were created, but they were definitely around at this time, and they were basically, what they were doing. Well, some people don't know what they were doing. The Black Panthers, from my understanding, they definitely were. They walked around neighborhoods with guns, but it was simply to patrol the people of those neighborhoods
And
against the
they're making sure that they were safe.
police.
And yeah, against the police.
So they were.
Because so that lets you know how fucking violent things were back then for people of color. To the point to where they said, hold up, we're going to use the same right, bitch, to protect us.
It's complete bullshit. So the yeah, so basically once Ronald Reagan essentially, and the NRA, along with Ronald Reagan, they passed the Mulford Act, repealing the open carry law in 1967. A lot of the Black Panthers were essentially assassinated
Mm-hmm.
throughout history, not just in California, all over, because they were wanting to silence those individuals. The ones who were just trying to help their communities, they were silencing them. So after that happened, Ronald Reagan he stopped becoming the California governor in 1975. And something that I found very interesting is that the NRA officially began lobbying in 1975. And I make that connection to kind of myself speculate that this is the point where the NRA became a money machine, if you will, for Republicans. And that happened in the very beginning, 1975, like I said. So, if you're not familiar with what lobbying is, that's just the process to where one person gets money from somebody else on. So, say for example, there's me, you, and a third person in the room that we'll call Jack. Jack is essentially, well, we won't even call it Jack. We'll just say it's a pharmaceutical company. So I'm a lobbyist for a pharmaceutical company, and you're a politician. You're Senator Myles, I guess. So I'm the lobbyist. Well, you know what will make more sense. I'm sorry, this is I'm gonna back it up a little bit, but it would make more sense if it was the NRA that I was a lobbyist for, wouldn't it?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it would just a bit.
So it's the NRA. I'm the lobbyist for the NRA. So I'm coming to you as a politician, and I'm saying, hey, it would really be good if you know, we could sell more guns out in the street. They might not phrase it that way, but we wanted to push more guns, so we need the legislation or to be kind of laxed when it comes to that. So anything that can be done to get more guns on the street, it would be appreciated. And we may even, on behalf of the NRA, we can get you a certain amount of money to help your campaign so you can continue to get elected. That in itself is disgusting. Lobbying is something that I feel is disgusting in regard to how it is associated in our democracy, but it's something that exists. So the NRA began lobbying in 1975, and Ronald Reagan became the president of the United States in 1981, which is essentially the next presidential election after they began lobbying. So,
Yeah,
again, I
that's
say
right.
that all in to kind of speculate on my own behalf to say that this is the point where the NRA got in there and just started pushing money to Republicans and muddying up the well, making it so we have all these mass shootings out there. I mean, Miles, I don't know if you had anything on that point before I continue forward with how we're gonna go.
Well, I would just want to say also it was some Democrats that was in that part too. That were pretty much bought for them, and it just goes back to an uncomfortableness that goes down to what. So now are we to a point to where lives really don't matter? Like really to a point to where I rather know that I could bank this much money and then so what we're gonna go and we're gonna allow these lives to continue to be lost. So what? That's we don't care about that part.
Well, I'll play as what's his name, Charlemagne says. I'll play white devil's advocate. In that sense, I don't know how many mass shootings we were having in like 1981 or whenever these laws were being passed, but yes, you are right in that there was Democrats and Republicans that
Not as many
were
though, but still, yeah.
yeah, they were definitely in favor of the legislation for I guess the same reasons of being in contact with those lobbyists. Um,
So let me say this.
mhm.
Real quick.
Yeah, go
So, do you think that this was one of the things in terms of like a people, like for instance, African Americans, for instance, where they went maybe from one party to the next? If you get what I'm saying, where we were more
Yes.
favorable one party because what we were freed under the Republican Party,
Right.
and
Yes.
so of course that would have been something to give us favor to that particular party.
Right. I know there was definitely a switch. If I had a little bit more time to think, and by think I mean research as well, I know a little bit about that, but I don't want to say that the switch happened at that time.
Well, maybe that
Black
was
people
one
were
of the things
already
that was kind
leery of Republicans at that point. Because I want to say some of the first black Republicans were like in the early 1900s, so maybe like the 1911. It was during what they called the Reconstruction era of America, which I want to say was somewhere around the 1920s, right before that.
Yeah.
And the switch happened maybe shortly after that. But what politically may have happened, I couldn't tell you. That is actually a very curious question. But
Yeah, I just
yeah.
kind of thought about that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know the answer to that specifically. So, but yeah, that's just kind of. I just kind of wanted to go over all those things to paint the picture of the history of the NRA, how I feel that they started as a racist organization in connection with police. Departments around the country. That definitely is an element to it. I didn't touch too much on that before now, but that definitely is an element. But they definitely had a political influence in that they were getting with politicians to do things like influence legislation to make sure that black people couldn't get guns. That was definitely a racist aspect to it, for one, in regard to, as well as in the 1920s, them trying to stop immigrants, Italian Americans especially, from getting guns. That was a racist aspect, but they also are funneling money, in my estimate, funneling money to definitely the Republicans. They may be doing it to a lot of some Democrats as well. I mean, it wouldn't put it past me as, right wing, left wing, same bird. But yeah, that definitely is an aspect as well. So just kind of laying that history out and moving forward with that. Unless Myles, you had anything to add to the history of them.
Nah, I ain't gonna get that to him.
Okay, cool. So, we definitely want to. We're gonna move forward into the next segment that we call the Black Sea. I think we've done maybe one other Black Sea, maybe James Baldwin, if I'm not mistaken, was a Black Sea in the Bay of Rustin, but this is the next one. So I wanted to highlight a woman that I feel is very important present day. Her name is Letitia James. She is the New York Attorney State General. The New York Attorney General, excuse me. Myles, I think you said that you hadn't known who she was before. I might have brought her up to
No, like I have to say, Evan is always introducing some little nuggets to me, and I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
Who's this lady?
And so here I go Google, doing all my little research.
But I mean, we are Florida residents. You can't know everybody. This is the highest elected official. The New York Attorney General is the highest elected official in the state. So, and she, a black woman, currently occupies that position. So, again, I mean, don't feel bad for not knowing her. Me, myself, I only became familiar a couple of months ago once I kind of looked into the whole NRA situation, and we're definitely going to make that connection a little bit later. But to get into Letitia James, she, first off, being the New York Attorney General, she is the first woman to be elected into that position, and she is also the first African American to be elected into that position. Very significant a little bit later in the podcast here, but I definitely want that to be known. She attended Howard University School of Law. She so she basically attended Howard University. She attended multiple schools, actually, but that's where she got her law degree. She became the public defender of the New York City Council from 2004 to 2013 for about 9 years. So that position, for anybody who may not know, I actually Googled the specific title myself, to be honest. But they are essentially a lawyer for the poor, the public defender. So this individual is somebody who would, I mean, I don't have to spell that out. Anybody who gets in a situation with the police, has no money to defend themselves, you get Letitia James. She did that for 9 years. Was pretty good at it. I assume I didn't look into her the specifics of her role as a public defender, but I can only imagine that she was good, because in 2014, just a year after she, I guess, stopped being a public defender, she was elected to the second highest position in New York, which is the New York Public Advocate. And I mean, in doing that, I want to say that the public advocate is essentially just suing people on behalf of the public if there is something going on, like the opioid crisis, for example. There's a family that is said to be directly responsible for how that has kind of how that situation has been exacerbated over time. There's one family that's said to be responsible for that. Somebody like a public advocate, or Letitia James, would sue that family and say, what's going on here, basically. So she was voted to that position in 2014. And in 2018, she actually ran for the New York Attorney General's position, which, spoiler alert, I spoiled it at the beginning. She won that election in 2018. So, again, she was the first woman and the first African American to do so. So I think that alone deserves some recognition, and at least a highlight, because I feel like that's very important.
I love the fact that okay, so now that
kind of giving you the
giving you the little
little
tidbit.
spiel.
I love the fact that she's on this level and like her like when I had looked her up or whatever have you and they had her name and it was like it said Tish like in quotes and I was like oh yeah, so she let it be known she got a little nickname.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, Tish.
She's from one of the boroughs in New York. I want to say Brooklyn, but I
Yes.
may be wrong about that. But so yeah, they call her Tish. I actually saw her. I think I might have become. I think I might have lied earlier. I think I may have become familiar with her through an interview from like the Breakfast Club or Ebro in the Morning. Both of which I think she was actually on. I think I actually watched both interviews, and that's where I first became familiar with her. I guess accolades, but I definitely felt a connection with her. She just seemed very familiar to me. Like she just seemed like somebody that you would see cooking macaroni and cheese at Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, I mean, like she was at the Stonewall 50 World Pride and what this year.
Oh yes,
So I
yes,
was just like, okay,
yes.
who this
Very,
woman?
very,
Hey.
very forward.
So and I love that because it's so much, especially going into it, and that's a whole other conversation. But in terms of like the black community and some individuals at some points, and some levels, like their responsiveness to their rights or their existence. So and they kind of know that she's like, hey, you my peoples, I'm here for the basis of right and wrong, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
here to do my damn thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to protect everybody. Right is right, wrong wrong. And I I love that. I love that about her. So
Right, right, yeah, and that's and for that reason and many more is kind of why I did want to highlight her in the black seat in this episode and going forward. Actually, I'm gonna tie this together. Actually, so I did bring up the NRA and its history again. I don't respect them. They ain't shit to me. They ain't shit in general, in my opinion.
it might be shit is. I don't know. The way shit be fucked up nowadays.
No, they not shit. So I actually brought that up because there is a connection between the two topics that we have going over thus far. Again, the NRA as well as Letitia James. So I just wanted to take the rest of this episode to kind of go over a little bit of how Letitia James has been spending her time as being the New York Attorney General. So she began to sue the hell out of the NRA. I'll just put it that way. She has pretty much opened up an investigation that has put the NRA in a position that it has never been in before in its 148-year history.
Can I just say
Yes.
that I live on the grounds of the slight feel of slight shadiness of how she handled this? Not moment out of all times for her to drop this on their ass. She did it the Friday before their annual meeting.
I'm like, oh yeah, I know you're getting ready to do something else, but you might want to have this on your mind. Have a good weekend.
And the very next day, head started fucking rolling.
So the
So,
first
yeah.
shoe dropped. So the next day it was the then president, now ex president,
Oliver North.
Oliver North stepped down. So the president of the NRA, just from a letter being sent out, the president of the most powerful, longest running civil rights organization, as they call themselves, said, "Ooh, and let me go ahead and get up out of here." And I want to say that he cited that there was some money mismanagement. Is that the reason that he cited?
Yeah. Alleging financial mismanagement. by senior NRA officers.
Senior NRA officers. He pretty much threw senior NRA officers under the bus and got up out of there. All after receiving a letter and maybe.
But yeah, he got a letter, but it was like they were having to instruct the NRA and its affiliated entities, including its charitable foundation, to preserve relevant documents, and that some of the NRA's related businesses also received subpoenas.
Right, so that's saying basically don't burn nothing. Well, the investigation has started. Burn nothing, shred nothing that has to do with the finances of the NRA and what else their charitable organizations. Don't touch any of it. And then that's when he said, "Oh, you know what? Oh, let me get on up out of here." So that just lets you know, if you're a thinking person, that there is probably some stuff going on.
Shit going
on. And people are starting to get out. So that happened one day. And and before I continue with this, I definitely want to say that this is an ongoing investigation. This isn't something that I'm bringing up to tell you about any specific conclusion. I want number one, for people to understand what the NRA is, what they are, who they are against, so you can know who your enemy is. But I definitely want to make sure that people understand. I guess you want to definitely give people flowers while they're still here. That's number one. But I want people to understand the significance of what's going on in our country and how certain big corporations or nonprofits, how those affect our lives, basically. So we can know what to vote against, what to vote for. But yeah, plowing forward. So there have been multiple legal disputes in this ongoing drama. There's been multiple subpoenas. A subpoena that was sent out to Oliver North, who stepped down in April, actually. And I guess today is what is it? August 25th. It was this past Tuesday that he sat down with Letitia James as well, who questioned him about a lot of the things that she said not to destroy. So yeah, that happened as well, and there's been multiple resignations also leading up to this point. Did you have anything to touch on before I?
No, not on the part.
Okay, so again, Letitia James has only been the Attorney General for about 8 months. This whole NRA situation has been going on since April. So I mean, in 4 months, she has this place, the NRA, in such shambles. Is beautiful to me. It's beautiful to watch daily because I consume certain news like an addict. I'll be completely honest in that sense. But so to this point, their top lobbyists left. I think I explained to you guys earlier what a lobbyist is: somebody who would try to get legislation done and pretty much the middleman between politicians and corporations. So the NRA's top lobbyists left as well, so they stepped down, if you will. There has been just a lot of infighting going on in this instance. So a lot of the top officials who were thrown under the bus are trying to throw each other under the last tire to come by, I guess. I don't know. But they're definitely trying to pit the blame on other individuals because they know that, at least I would say, I hope that the shoe is getting ready to drop in this sense. They are very powerful. I want people to not only know their enemy, but know how powerful they are as well. I mean, this is something that I feel that if it's played right, they could come back from, but it's a blow that is very public and it's very and when I say there's something that they can't survive from, I mean, just like I said, the KKK ended and then the NRA popped up. There could be another something that comes up in 2019 or 2020. That's what I mean in that sense. But
I'm about to say the KKK ended with.
The KKK ended in the first iteration of it ended in 1871, and that's the same exact year that the NRA was founded. So
Oh, so I was gonna wonder what we got going on around here. So what is that then?
well, I mean,
Oh, okay.
it's
Yeah,
still
I'm about to
that. I
say
mean,
it's
yeah,
still,
well,
okay. So
yes,
we'll
it's
go with
semantics.
the
It's pretty
play
much
play.
just the semantics
Okay.
of the whole situation.
Okay.
So
I'm on
yeah,
Brazil.
we here.
Okay.
All right, so but yeah, again, there's a lot of infighting going on. There is money mismanagement allegations. To this point, the board of the NRA, there have been, to my understanding, about 6 board members that have resigned. Um, which is if you know anything about boards or what have you, you know that to be a significant number. But the NRA in their sliminess throughout the years, they have a system in place, I guess, because they, for whatever reason, have 57 board members in total, and this is 3 times the norm of any
Oh
corporation
my
that
God.
size.
That just speaks to the volume, like the size of this organization. Like, God, because, like I said, you only want to have so many people to it, so many people represented. Like, everybody in your organization can't fucking be a damn board member. Like, the fuck.
And it seems like that's what the case is. Like, you paying dues, you're a board member, you're the vice president. It seems like all of that is the case. Now, this is something that may be false that I'm going to say. You know what? It's not important because if it's false, it's irrelevant. But I will also say that the NRA, and this is a reason why they've been subpoenaed as well. They are spending a lot more money than they're taking in. So that's another red flag.
So let me go ahead and just put this part out. So, all right. So revenue. I said it so perfectly earlier. Let's try this out. 412,233,508. That was
Essentially $412 million.
So in expenses, 423,034,158.
I mean, that's.
I don't own a business just yet like that to maybe make some real sense of this.
You own a calculator?
But I do own a calculator.
So
the fuck?
That's just another layer to the bull that has been I guess perpetuated all these years in the NRA, and how they have been able to again just use all of this power to influence politicians to be able to push legislation that not only reduces gun I guess legislation, the things that will restrict certain guns from being on the street. Like, there's one thing, for example, called like bump stocks. Bump stocks are something that you would put on a semi-automatic weapon and make it an automatic weapon. So it's just like just like it just keeps going. Why you need that? What situation can you foresee other than somebody who wanna be like out like in a hotel lobby or not a lobby but a hotel room in Las Vegas and see a crowd of people down at a concert? And what other reason would you need a gun unless you want to like kill a bunch of people like that? Like, those are the only reasons you would need anything that would shoot that much ammo.
Well, the thing about it is also individuals who are in support of the war and that whole situation, then yeah, of course, that you want that existence.
Well, I don't think that has to do with like what we're using overseas. I want to say that the legislation goes directly to what we are able to have.
Yeah,
like,
but the thing is that if you knock off one thing for one group of people, like, or you know what have you, then because at the end of the day, regardless of whatever, we're still all citizens. You know, United States citizens in some regard. And I go through all this training and whatever to be able to conduct myself with these particular things. And you're gonna tell me now I can't conduct myself because what? So
I'm
the
sorry.
things that in which that like people were trained with and stuff like the type of guard, the guns and stuff that they were used to there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can only look at it and from that crazy perspective of feeling like or loopholes rather. That's what I'm looking at.
All right,
In
so
terms of
let me just make sure I'm understanding because you started to lose me. So are you saying that you would be for or against I guess legislation that would stop people from owning something like a bump stock? Would you want to be able to own that if you had the chance?
I'm not talking about me. I'm flipping over to the thought process of somebody else and them
Okay,
being
okay,
taken away from
you
them.
flipped it on me. You
My
flipped
bad.
it and reversed it. Okay, I got you. I'm sorry.
No, because I don't even own one gun, so that wouldn't.
Understood.
Not to say that I wouldn't, but I don't even have one, so it's not even necessary.
Yeah, but even if I own one gun and somebody's like breaking into my house, I'm gonna only hopefully need 6 bullets at the most. I'm not gonna need anything like
Yeah.
a bump stock. I'm not gonna need anything like certain weapons that are designed to kill multiple people in a short amount of time. It doesn't make any sense.
I'm just going
for that
to
be
the necessity on this level, and from we don't have a necessity. It only makes more problems than we actually really need.
Right. But that's all of that is really getting away from the drama of the NRA. That's just some drama.
Period.
That's just some political stuff that we can really go in a circle about. But definitely what's going on with the NRA, I think it's very like I said, it's very fun to witness if you're like a news junkie like me, or somebody who just likes to see justice happen in real time. Or like to see big corporations like this get beat up on. It's just very fun to watch. I'll just say all of that. And again, there's no real conclusion in this sense because the investigation is still ongoing. I think for that reason, like I think you were saying yesterday, Myles, like this is a very dangerous position for her to be in. So,
Yeah.
hashtag protect Letitia James. Like that can be created hell. But that's something I just kind of wanted to highlight and just overall, like again, just say give you guys the history of the NRA, highlight who Letitia James is, and kind of just give you an insight of what's going on in the NRA, how they're kind of being dismantled by a black woman. It's
Yeah, that's the part, and I'm like, and I did not know her name. How did I not know her name? I always feel like that.
But again, yeah, she's somebody who was doing big things in a state that you don't live in, and it is what it is. You can't know everything. You gotta learn things at a certain point. You can't always have known everything. So you gotta just take it a day at a time, I guess. But with that being said, I think I have pretty much exhausted everything that I wanted to say in this episode. Myles, did you have any other points that you wanted to hit on?
I think that as the story develops and the more that we talk a little bit more about the NRA, because it's not gonna be the last time we talk about the ass.
Yeah, it's gonna come up.
I'll probably be ready to really go into the ass because unfortunately, it wasn't until we came across what was going on with Miss James that we kind of started probing into, well, hey, hold up, who exactly really is the fucking NRA? Who are they really?
And just to kind of, because I'm a conspiracy theorist, and I say conspiracy in that certain things that are conspiracies are real because people go to jail for real for conspiracies. But the individual that we mentioned earlier, Oliver North, who was the president, now ex-president of the NRA, he was a part of something that was very controversial in Ronald Reagan's administration, something called the Iran-Contra deal. You guys can look that up further, but that was something that could be considered Donald Trump's Russiagate, if you will, Ronald Reagan's Iran-Contra deal. So the person that got Ronald Reagan off, I would say they got him off, kind of protected him through that whole thing. His name was Bill Barr, who happens to right now be Donald Trump's attorney general. We can see how the whole Russia thing kind of disappeared for him. That's why I'm kind of like scared that he might be president forever. But anyway, the guy Oliver North was also a part of that whole Iran Contra deal. So that just kind of I just kind of threw that out there to just illustrate how much of a tangled web of BS we live in as in this country. It's just kind of frustrating and maddening. The more that you learn, the more you know that you don't know, and it's frustrating.
But that's the point. We want you to be frustrated because if you're not living in everyday mindset of frustration, bitch, you don't know what's going on.
That's one of my favorite James Baldwin quotes, and I can only paraphrase it, but it's something along the lines of to be black and to be even relatively black and conscious in America is to be almost in a conscious rage almost all of the time, and that's how I feel when I look into this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I get mad, and I have to cool down, and then I get mad again because I jump right back into it. But that's just what that is. But again, I definitely appreciate you guys for listening. I hope that you learned something.